What's going on, guys? It's Bromley. Here I want to talk about a couple of tips for hard gainers to gain weight. I know this is a big problem with a lot of guys, especially starting out. If you're underweight, if your natural state is to be kind of skinny and lanky and it seems like it's hard to put on mass, for you guys, eating is just as, if not more important than training, and that probably doesn't get emphasized enough. So I want to get into that. Real quick, we got the SoCal Summer Strongman Challenge coming up end of August 2021. If you or anyone you know is interested in getting their feet wet in a strongman contest, we will be holding that at Empire Barbell. So I'm excited to make that happen. We have a lot of talent in the area and they will be showing up in full force. So we have that. Also, Peak Strength in stores now on my website, empire-barbell-store.com. We also got it coming up on the Amazon store shortly. I just got the formatting back today, so I'm going to make that live as quick as I can. A lot of talk about specialization as opposed to just general base building. A lot of discussion of exercise variations and how to organize your training as you progress. So go ahead and check that out. Appreciate everybody's support. It's been huge, and it's made sure that I've been able to put out this content continuously. So getting into the subject at hand, me and my wife were eating at one of our favorite places in Ontario. It's called Gayukaku, and it's one of those kind of Benihana type spots, but they have the grill on the actual table. So they bring out the raw meat, you grill it up yourself. And they have really cheap pitchers of Sapporo on happy hour. So that's one of our favorite spots. So we went yesterday, trained, Laura prepped for, the overhead press medley she has coming up at this Texas show we're about to do. And I dicked around with some farmer carries and bag tosses. And afterwards, we're like, you know what? We did some moderate work today. Let's go reward ourselves with some delicious Asian barbecue and a couple of pitchers of Sapporo. And we ended up going and talking to the server there, who recognized my shirt as being strongman related, started asking questions, started to talk about how he's a hard gainer and how hard it is to gain weight. And then I just found myself with this kind of impromptu discussion about all of the things he needs to do. And it was probably a lot more information than he wanted at the time. And it got my brain turning that this really isn't something that gets emphasized enough. I mean, everybody knows what a hard gainer is, and it's not a new term. It's a problem that's been around for a while. And even more advanced athletes will really struggle with what to do. Andrew Mock, fantastic pro level strongman. He's still an amateur 105, but he is pro level. He's 6'3", very tall and lanky, competes under 231, very, very lean, and he has a hell of a time gaining weight for a bunch of reasons. So I'm going to go through the tips. These are just 5 quick ones that kind of cover all the bases for if you're a hard gainer, what you should do. And if you're not a hard gainer and you are very oriented in going up a weight class, that is also something that's going to be solved by having a structured, principled approach. I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. So the first thing you're going to do, eat the same thing every day. That is big. Being structured, being consistent in the types of foods you eat, that makes it more easy to kind of pinpoint what is working and what's not. So you're always going to be taking notes. You're going to know exactly, or at least broadly, what your caloric intake is. It doesn't need to be razor thin if you're trying to gain weight, but you need to know, am I taking in 2,000 calories or am I taking in 3? Am I taking in 200 grams of protein or am I only getting 90? You need to have a broad idea of those numbers, and it's easiest to keep track if you don't have to calculate them throughout the day, because you won't. Life gets in the way. You just simply won't do that. So that's the best way for taking notes, the best way for figuring out if you're doing what you need to be doing or if you need to make changes. Eat the same thing every day. Ideally, it's a lot of real food sources. Everything should boil down to the same types of carbs. I prefer rice-based stuff because it's easier on my stomach. You'll find that oats and wheat and stuff like that, processed stuff, is going to be a little harder on your stomach, although it is more calorically dense. So there is a trade-off there. But I really like rice-based stuff. Meats, red meat, chicken, fish, those are the big ones. Animal byproducts, eggs and milk are fantastic. And then, whatever foods you interact with on a daily basis, have an idea of what they are. Try to make it the same every day, so you will more easily and intuitively get a running count of how much you're eating. That brings us to the second point, which is to titrate up. The term titration, I first came across it in chemistry class when we have two compounds and we're trying to combine them to get a chemical reaction. The specific lab we would do, once you hit that threshold where the chemical reaction happens or where you reach a certain point of saturation, the thing would change color. So your goal was to set up in this glass a certain amount of whatever the compound was, and then take the other one and go drop by drop by drop until you reach that threshold where this color change would happen. And that measurement, that would give you the measurement, that would give you the ability to measure and figure out exactly how much of each you needed to get to this certain threshold. So That process is called titration. It just means slowly changing things in a very methodical and calculated way. Stanfording's vertical diet. It's the same idea. It's you eat a certain amount and you increase over time as your need for food grows, as you grow. And you want to do this over just binging. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm a hard gainer, let me go eat 8,000 calories today. Usually what happens is you eat until you're sick. The sexiness of being able to eat whatever you want wears off. You start to associate all of that food with feeling like shit, with being tired, with having digestive issues. And usually it leads to this kind of binge purge cycle where you're binging on food and then you're abstaining for long periods of time because your body just doesn't feel like it. You know, you're like a coyote that just took down an entire, family of rabbits and you're like good for the next week. That's kind of the state your body goes into. So it's plastic, your metabolism changes. So it's better to set a baseline, eat the same thing every day. Start to add in food, start to add in calories over time. Let your body adjust to the amounts of food you're eating. Don't just go nuts the first time because that's not sustainable. That does teach bad habits. Third point, schedule your food intake for convenience. Now, this is a big one because people, when it comes to diet, people get hung up on the dumbest shit with regards to dieting, and it's usually based on obscure studies. It doesn't take into account real life shit. It doesn't try to balance out the cost versus the reward. So when you get fixated on really, really small stuff like your food sources, really, really small stuff like nutrient timing. I mean, I think Mike Israel had probably one of the best visual comprehension tools, which was just the pyramid that showed order of importance. And the top of the pyramid was really small stuff like nutrient timing, which people just obsess over endlessly. Meanwhile, the big stuff at the base of the pyramid, like just your basic caloric intake, they would fuck off on. So don't get in the habit of obsessing over really small stuff. Schedule for convenience. You might be the type of person that likes to eat every couple of hours and you can sustain that and that fits your lifestyle. You might find that keeps your energy levels pretty stable. You might find that it's easier to be productive and plan around that. On the other hand, you might be the type of person that finds that is a massive interference for your lifestyle and that you're less likely to comply. Maybe you have long stretches of time where you have to work and you can't stop and eat. Maybe you have an issue where, let's just say, you get devastatingly tired after you take in a lot of food and it makes it impractical to eat at key times of the day where you have to be productive. That's the problem I've had. So instead of just trying to force in one method of eating because you think it's going to be better in some small obscure way, eat for convenience. If you can get all of your calories in at 3 points throughout the day, that's fine. Your body is still going to use it. You're not going to waste protein because you ate it once instead of over 6 meals. That's not really a thing. And that's mirrored by what happens in the wild. I mean, our bodies are organized to be able to make the most out of nutrients when nutrients are scarce. So our bodies work around large consumption of calories in anticipation of the fact that calories might not be available in the future. Many animals will only eat once every few days. And when they eat a ton. So the idea that if you don't space it out exactly right, it's not going to be useful for you is kind of dumb. I personally find that I need to get work done in the morning and I need some calories in, so I'll eat some eggs and egg whites. I might have a little bit of cream of rice or oatmeal. My meals will get bigger as the day goes on. I try to avoid carbs midday to avoid a carb crash so I can be productive later in the day. Usually I'll go walk around after I take in my midday meal. And then usually all of my calories come in at the end of the day. It's not quite intermittent fasting, but a big chunk of what I eat comes in later in the day so I can just be a vegetable on the couch and I don't have to worry about it. That's a sustainable path for me, but you need to eat for convenience. Compliance is the biggest thing, and this is true with everything. It's true with programming. It's really true for diet. I can give you the best diet in the world. It doesn't matter if you don't comply with it, so convenience does play a big role. Point number 4, understand that eating is training. I can't emphasize this enough. People think of food as an afterthought because we do live in a society where it is insanely abundant. People have the ability to be picky eaters. People who think that they're really picky when it comes to pretty much everything from sexual partners to the types of food you like have never been in a position where that stuff is absolutely scarce. Because once your availability of choices goes away, you would be very surprised at how your seemingly high standards drop very quickly. The fact that we get to be so picky, the fact that we can use food as a comfort, that we can just use it in any capacity that we feel it gives us what we want, when and where, you have to get that out of your mind. You have to see food as a form of sustenance. You have to see it as a tool to get to your end goal. It has to be something you do mechanically. It's just like training. If you only did physical activity when your body compelled you, and you only did it in the exact way you wanted to do it at that time, you would never get anywhere. Training is the commitment to the same activity over time to get a desired result. Food is no different. And that's highlighted by the fact that eating correctly to gain weight consistently is very difficult. That's something that people don't really emphasize enough. I mean, yeah, you can go watch videos of Eddie Hall trying to kill himself by getting, 450 pounds at only 6'3", so that he could compete with the biggest guys on the main stage. That was hard for him. You don't even have to go that far. You just have to eat like a normal human being. But if that's way, way, way above where you're used to, you're going to find it very uncomfortable, very unpleasant. Eating is going to get monotonous. You're going to get tired of chewing. All right. You're going to want to stop. And you might find that several days after you binge, you're not going to want to eat a lot. You have to force yourself to get the minimum threshold. It's homework. Do what you have to do. Get the calories in. Don't deviate. That is more important than making all of your workouts. If you are a hard gainer, you will not gain weight. If you're trying to go up a weight class, you will not gain weight unless you consistently raise your threshold for the amount of calories your body has to process. Number 5, and this is where the tips and tricks come in. You have to sneak in calories, because if you're just left to eat the same few food choices, you're going to find that you hit a wall. I mean, monotony is a big one. Honestly, simply just get tired of chewing. You start to lose a taste for the foods. Like, I used to love eggs. There's days where I don't want to look at eggs. The smell of eggs makes me nauseous because I eat them so consistently. And that's where you start to implement tricks to get you to your baseline on certain days where it might be kind of hard. So there's a couple. One, I like to drink my calories. It's one of the reasons Americans are so fat is because we love to drink our calories. We love beer and soda and juice and sugary drinks, and it's really easy to add just hundreds and hundreds of calories. That doesn't mean I use soda. I mean, I have in the past, I'm not gonna lie, but that doesn't mean you should use soda as a main food staple. But it does mean that if you have the ability to liquefy your food, protein shakes are very easy. Don't look at it as a supplement. Look at it as a meal. It's something that you include to get your minimum number of protein, minimum amount of protein. You can do other things. You can use whole milk. You can put cream in it. You can add things, add berries, add fruit, add banana to make it more calorie dense and get the most out of that one sitting where you drink those calories. One tip I like that's easy to do if you're carrying around your protein all day, you don't have a blender with you at the gym, put your protein powder in your shaker cup, throw in a few tablespoons of olive oil, shake it up. When it's time to drink it, you just gave yourself a few extra 100 calories of good fats that is going to go a long way if you stack that workout after workout over a period of months to help you get to your caloric needs. One of the things that I've taken to doing, and I went back to it recently, is I blend chicken. I will not sit down and eat a pound of chicken. I just won't. And if I do, like, guys, I have kind of a small mouth. It's hard for me to chew through it. It would take me 30 to 40 minutes and I would hate every second of it. So that lowers the odds of compliance. Instead, I'll weigh out a pound of cooked chicken. It's about 140 grams of protein. I'll throw it in a blender. Shout out, I wish I remember the guy's name. One of the guys commented, if you throw in cream cheese, chicken broth, butter, Parmesan, and broccoli, it basically comes out like soup. And I drink it a little warm. It tastes like I'm drinking broccoli cheese soup. And in about 4 minutes, I can drink a full pound of cooked chicken breast that's low carbohydrate. It gets me closer to that protein goal that I have, and it makes it that much more likely that I'm going to comply, as opposed to if I was going to sit down and actually spend a half hour chewing through an entire piece of chicken. Now that's kind of extreme. You guys don't necessarily need to do that, but knowing which foods are more calorically dense and how you can sneak in more calories, again, titrating, not just swinging for the fences right out of the gate. So slowly incorporating things. So again, if you can drink your calories, you're going to be able to get more in faster. If you can sneak in calorically dense things that are going to raise the calorie count of those shakes, of those liquefied calories, or if you can commit to feedings at key intervals of things you do like to eat. So like a good one is, we like barbecue. I don't eat barbecue that often. It doesn't matter what my eating has been like. I can scarf down a shit ton of barbecue. So I save it for after the biggest training days of the week. Me and my wife will usually get the feast from Famous Dave's, and it's pretty good. You know, it's covered in barbecue sauce, a lot of meat. At the end of that meal, I've gotten in a lot of protein, a lot of extra fats, and it goes a long way, especially after a big workout, to jacking up that caloric count for the day. So know what those foods are, schedule them accordingly, and make sure that you're hitting those marks day in, day out, week to week. those are my 5 tips for getting your minimum amount of calories if you are a hard gainer or if you are somebody who is trying to move up a weight class. You have to be consistent. You can't make excuses. You have to look at it as homework. It is the minimum viable product, minimum viable amount of work that you need to get to where you want to go. So don't slack on it. Take it seriously, and you'll be surprised. 6 months, set a date on the calendar. I'm going to hit this minimum goal every day. Train like a beast. Set the calendar 6 months out. Take a before and after picture. See how much your body has changed. Once you can connect those habits to the physical changes, the tangible changes, what you're going to find is you build that association, and it's going to get easier and easier to commit yourself to it over time. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. Leave questions and comments in the comment box. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.